Do you doubt? Do you find the story of the resurrection really hard to believe? Well, you're not alone. Today's reading is focused on the story of Thomas when he hears the news that Jesus has appeared to the disciples. Here's what he says in John chapter 20. He says, starting in verse 25, so the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe." In yesterday's video, Matt talked about what Thomas did as he still hung out with the church, with these people who were following Jesus. He stayed connected in the midst of his doubt. I think there's one other thing that's remarkable about what Thomas does here. He actually gets clear on what he would need to see to believe, and then Jesus gives it to him. He says, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands and put my fingers where they were and see his side and put my hand there." So oftentimes I think that when we have doubts, when I have doubt, it's a much more nebulous shadow. It's more like a shadow of doubt. And I think what helps is when we get concrete about what we have a hard time believing. So if you're having doubts, if you're plagued by that shadow or that unease, can you get crystal clear about what makes this story hard to believe? Before you can even get past it, you have to define what is it that you're having trouble believing. Is your doubt about the goodness of God, about the divinity of Jesus, about these actual events? Can you get really clear on what those doubts are? I've said this in Cornerstone before, but I think when we're pressed to define our doubt, so often what we find is these intellectual doubts are actually a defense against a deeper posture of the heart. Maybe ways that we have felt wounded or disappointed, let down by God. And they're heart issues that are showing up as head issues. So can you lean in like Thomas and get really clear about what's giving you the doubt, what's making the struggle hard to believe? And then can you actually ask God to clear those up? Actually ask God to show up in ways that speak to that doubt. But Jesus does it for Thomas. He comes in and he invites Thomas to do exactly what he's asked for. He says, "Here, touch my wounds. Put your hands here." Jesus doesn't scorn him for it, but he does say, "Lucky for you, like you got to see and you believe. This is why it's working, because you're seeing. But you will be far more blessed if you can believe by faith without seeing." By blessed, he means like happy. It will be better for you if you can believe without seeing, without having to understand every little single detail. If you can trust and go with me on this, it will go better for you. So where are you? Can you get concrete about your doubt and then ask God to speak to those doubts because you want to believe? There's this great line in one of the Gospels where Jesus says, "What about you? Like, do you doubt? Do you believe?" And I think it's Peter. It might be somebody else. I need to fact check this. But he says, "I believe, Lord, help my unbelief." I believe, Lord, help my unbelief. Can you get clear about those doubts and ask God to clear those up for you? Blessings as you stay in the struggle of faith today. This isn't easy, but these aren't fairy tales. People gave their lives to prove the truth of these stories. Have a great day.